So what I wanted to do, um, there are 10 spooky Halloween interview questions that I had generated. And so we're going to go through those. And so this is for the Pottery Dailies, a Halloween interview, right? So hopefully I'll hear if people come to the door, but we'll see. All right. So before I start, thanks for all your support and for the few people who do read the writings. I very much appreciate it. And I only make pots and I only write for one other person, myself and one other person. It makes things a whole lot easier, right? And if you happen to be that one other person, I thank you. So let's see. The scary Halloween interview. I don't know how scary this is going to be. So let's see. Number one, what's the most cursed pot you've ever pulled from the kiln? Was it possessed by the kiln gods or just a victim of your own hubris? Well, I don't believe in kiln gods because I believe that every kiln can and should be managed. So I don't leave them to themselves, nor do I leave them to fate. You need to be there, and, and you need to uh, be there with the firing as it goes through all of its processes. Right. Um, Let me think of a horror story of something that I've pulled from the kiln. Oh, three vases. One time I had to make this nice blue vase for this lady. She wanted to give it as a gift. So I made three, and all three, all three cracked out. And it was just horrible. So I had to take images. I shouldn't be laughing, right? It was really rough and it put me under a lot of stress. I had to take images and show her the cracked bottoms of the vases, and she was unable to get the gift for her friend. So I felt really bad about that, and she sent a text that she would not recommend me as a potter. So, so out there, I was a bad potter to somebody. It happens to the best of us, right? We can't be on our game every single day, but so that's the horror story of the custom order that was pulled from the kiln, and it was just horrendous. All right, number two. If you had to spend the night locked in the big paper factory alone, which section would terrify you the most, and what sounds would you hear in the darkness? So we would hear. I think there's somebody out here. One second. So, um, you would hear the hum of equipment uh, and the facilities at the big paper factory if you're in there at night alone. Um, there really wouldn't be any scary parts, I don't think. Um, the nice part would be you could go to the lounge, and in the lounge, they had these big massage recliners for people that for people who maybe have longer breaks, right? And they can sit in those recliners and they're heated. One time, really bad snowstorm. Couldn't make it home. I lived an hour away at the time, one way, and I had to stay at the factory overnight. And I had to sleep in one of those cushy recliners, and it wasn't all that bad. I was early for work. I was early for work the next morning, so it wasn't bad. All right, so not really a ghost story. Okay, number three. Uh, what ghosts haunt your studio? Is it the spirit of all the pots you've sent to the cry pile or something more sinister? A lot of custom orders and a lot of pots and tests that I was trying have gone to the cry pile, and they do come back as ghosts because every time I walk by them, I see all my failings. But that's a good thing because sometimes I'll go back into the cry pile and try again, right? Because we can do that. Try that glaze or try that form. So cry piles are actually really helpful sometimes if you just let them pile up and you can go back into your old problems and work things out once you gain more understanding and more practice, right? Okay. Number 4, you open the kiln at midnight. Instead of pots, you find what? Describe the horror. Let's see. This one would be you opened the kiln at midnight and you found the bottom of your kiln caved in, right? and and all the shelves are all jumbled up in there, and all the pots are busted, and the bottom shelf is now on the floor or on the ground, depends on where you had it, because you fired that kiln so much that it caved. And some of my some of my kilns are like that. Um, So either from old age or glaze melting all the way through. So when glaze spits, or you may not have taken exploded glazed pots out, every time you fire, it will eat more and more through your kiln floor, and it can create holes, right? So you need to get in there with a flat screwdriver, like you're pulling teeth, and get all those glazed particles out of that kiln floor. Because if you didn't, um, they will melt down in there, and some old kilns you can see where they're melting through. I actually have a floor. Maybe I'll show you sometime. So that would be a nightmare to open the kiln to at midnight. All right, number 5. What's the scariest thing resistance have ever whispered to you when you sat down at your wheel? Um, I've had horror dreams, nightmares, that I would lose my arm and not be able to throw pots. Um, So that's kinda scary. So I've done a little bit of practicing with, drawing with one hand, and it doesn't go well, but I came to the realization that if my hand were to get cut off at work or by some terrible accident, I could throw with one hand if I had to. There's a way to do it. Um, alright. If you could bring one dead potter back for 24 hours to mentor you, who would it be? Warren Mackenzie. But the problem with bringing him back, I would not I would not want to see them go again because, it's just a horrible thing, right? Death. So, um, I don't know what they would think of my work or what I would ask them, but Warren Mackenzie was a very people person, and he believed in leaving his fingerprints in his work, and he's very kind. He always liked to be around the public. He was always pushing other people's work along with his own and with his own. And it got to the point where some shows that he did, he would invite other potters to show with him, would not sign his work so that nobody would know whose pots they were. And uh, it's very kind of him. So I always thought he was a kind potter. Bernard Leach is a potter that I would like to talk to because he was doing some pretty interesting stuff way back in the day. All right, so moving on with the scariest Halloween questions. Number 7, you're digging clay at midnight in Pennsylvania, out in a field, and you unearth something that shouldn't be there. What is it? Well, when you're out in PA, there's a lot of old farmhouse foundations, a lot of barn foundations, and I know of like 3 or 4, and you might be digging out there and you might find silverware and old enameled sinks and any household item that got buried out there from way back long time ago. And I don't know if it would be spooky, but if you're out back digging in the field and you pull up an enameled old timey sink, you would be like, what is this doing here? I think. All right. What would be your personal hell as a potter? An eternity of perfectly centered pots that go awry the last second as you form them? Or a kiln that never reaches temperature? Tell me your nightmare. All right. I think a kiln that never reaches temperature. Like if I was in some Dante's Inferno and that would be my punishment, it'd be right at cone 9 when you're trying to get to cone 10 and you're trying to put the kiln over the hump to gain those few degrees to get to 2300 or to get the work heat to melt the cone 10 to onto 11 a little bit because that last stage can last hours. And if you don't do it right, and if things aren't going right, you're just wasting time and fuel and energy. And it is probably one of the most stressful parts of the firing is the last end of it, getting over the hump from like cone 8 to 10. It just feels like a real kind of effort, like major effort. And if I was in some Dante's Inferno and I was put in there, the the uh the the work heat would be almost to 10, but not quite melting, and it would just be horrible to be out there doing that. All right, I'll take a drink here. All right, number 10, last one, right? You make a deal with the devil at the crossroads. What do you trade your soul for? And was it worth it? Let's see. Better firing results, more hours in the day, or the ability to never need the big paper factory again? Well, oh, that's tough. More hours in a day, that wouldn't really benefit me, but it would benefit maybe other people. But then you would spend more hours in your day doing silly things, more of silly things than what you already do when you're not making work and you should be, like me doing these videos, right? uh, let's see, better firing results. Oh man, would I trade my soul for better firing results? The ability to never need the big paper factory again. Well, the ability to never need the big paper factory again could simply mean I had to get another job. So if I was into a Greek tragedy, that would be my curse. It would be like, okay, here's one thing that you're able to do. You're able to leave the big paper factory. And then the person in the play is like, hooray! But they don't realize what they signed on for, and the job, even though they left the paper factory, is probably worse than the paper factory itself. So it comes with a curse, you know? So that's tough. So I would say better firing results, if I had to pick one. All right, bonus spooky question. What Halloween candy would you throw into reduction to firing just to see what would happen? Well, I already put lots of stuff down the exhaust hole at the end of the firing, wood and all kinds of stuff. So I would probably try a packet of Snickers, like a whole bag of them. It would take probably like 2 or 3 bags of Snickers, and I would dump it down that hole and see what would happen. Right? Okay, so that's the spooky Halloween interview questions from the pottery on Halloween night as we wait for maybe one trick or treater to come by uh, and get candy. All right. So happy Halloween, and hopefully you're enjoying yourself. Take care, and happy making.